This video will take a deeper look into the sociological and psychological concepts present in Disney's classic movie Tangled. Here's a quick synopsis of Tangled if you haven't seen it already. After receiving the miraculous healing powers of a magical flower, Rapunzel was the baby princess the kingdom had been waiting for, but the joyous celebration of her birth was cut short when she was kidnapped. For the next 17 years, Rapunzel lived in near isolation, but the day the bandit Mr. Flynn Rider made an appearance in her life, the partners in crime embarked on a journey of a lifetime. The main social scientific concept that I am arguing is the ways in which prolonged social isolation affects the overall socialization of a person, thus hindering a person's ability to develop adequate social skills, as that can be seen through Rapunzel. To begin, let's look at the ways in which Rapunzel received abnormal socialization. Starting with her primary socialization. For Rapunzel, this step was achieved to an adequate level because she could read, walk, talk, and paint. This is only because she was raised in near isolation and not total isolation. Had Rapunzel grown up in complete isolation, her primary socialization would not have developed at all because she would have literally had no one there to teach her anything. Now her secondary socialization. This category was developed to a certain extent because she did have Mother Gothel around, but that does not really constitute as a group as she only learned from one person and wasn't meeting different kinds of people. This can be seen when Rapunzel and Flynn go to the Snuggly Duckling. It is very apparent that Rapunzel is very uncomfortable with all the new people, but instead of having a conversation, she holds out her frying pan as a form of defense. And finally, her anticipatory socialization. This category was never developed in Rapunzel because since she was inside and isolated all day, there was nothing she ever had to plan for because her days were already set out for her. The true extent of the damage done on this category is seen when Rapunzel finally gets out of the tower, but goes in constant circles running around if she's making a good idea or a bad idea because she never planned for anything new. Now moving on to Rapunzel's self-concept, another aspect of her life that was damaged due to her isolation. Starting with Mead's theory, where we analyze both selves of Rapunzel. In the beginning of the movie, Rapunzel's I-self was developed to the bare minimum. This was because she only had a close relationship with Mother Gothel and only expressed herself to one person. As the movie progresses, it can be seen that Rapunzel's I-self continues to develop as she creates a relationship with Flynn, her real parents, and eventually the entire kingdom. Moving on to Rapunzel's me-self. Her me-self was not developed at all because she had spent 17 years locked away in a tower, so she had no idea what society meant or that there were even such things as norms that guided people's behavior. This can also be seen as something that develops through the progression of the movie, as it can be seen that her public self is someone who is caring, compassionate, and looks out for others. And now analyzing Rapunzel's sense of self based on the theory of Charles Cooley. By going by this theory, Rapunzel's sense of self would not have developed very much, if at all. This is because this theory is based solely around social interaction with other people and curiosity while exploring, but since Rapunzel received very little of that, essentially her sense of self would not have developed. Another key point of this theory is the whole concept of negative versus positive feedback while exploring the world, and it is clear that Rapunzel always received negative feedback. Rapunzel always voiced her fascination about the outside world to Mother Gothel, but every single time she asked questions about it, Mother Gothel would shut it down, which always gave her negative feedback, thus deteriorating her sense of self. The final point that I'm going to argue in terms of the effects of isolation on Rapunzel is the nature versus nurture debate. It can be seen that Mother Gothel nurtured Rapunzel so much and in such a negative way that she actually instilled fear in her about the outside world. She told her that there are cannibals, snakes, and poison ivy, and she kept saying this for years and years to the point where it had the same effect as some type of cruel nurture. On the other side of the spectrum is nature, and in Rapunzel's case, it can be seen that nature has more of an effect on her rather than the nurture. This is because, although she had endured 17 years of constant brainwash, she was still bent on going outside because it is just human nature to want to explore. This same idea is mentioned in Bond 2014, when he says after only a few hours, the students became acutely restless. They started to crave stimulation, talking, singing, or reciting to themselves. And it was the exact same case for Rapunzel. Although she had been told several times to never go outside, she had become restless after 17 years, and it was just in her body to want to go and explore. This is an example where it is clear that nature is the dominant side in Rapunzel's personality. Although she had heard so much nurture, she still went on with her actual own instincts. Overall, the main social scientific concept I had in terms of Rapunzel were the various ways in which her social isolation affected her as a person and her personality. This argument was seen in 3 different ways throughout the movie: her abnormal primary, secondary, and anticipatory socialization, the distorted ways in which her self-concept developed according to the theories of Cooley and Mead, and finally, the ways in which the nature and nurture debate played a key role in the way she lived her life. Once Rapunzel got out of isolation, she finally got to see the light of the world she had always been dreaming of. And that's it. Thank you!